All right, so let's get started. Thank you for joining us for this month's coffee break, where we're going to talk about SCOM 2019 Update Rollup 1. This month's guest will be Laude. He wrote an excellent blog post that we'll talk about, and we'll get to the meat of it. So let's get started. My co-host today is Leon. Leon, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into what you wrote and what we're going to do this month.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing fine during these times. Let's get started straight away.
Cool. Okay, so Update Rollup 1. For those of you that have been following Microsoft, they have said that they wanted to start getting update rollups out a little faster, hopefully every 6 months. They tried this way back when, but didn't kind of work out. So this time they came out with a new process, what they're calling one-click patching. Yeah, I really don't know where to begin here, Leon. Can you tell me about what this one-click patching is and why it's important?
Well, basically, updating SCOM has always been a bit of pain for many, depending, of course, on your environment and the size of it. But there's so many components and different things we need to do in a specific order. So this has been a very long awaited change, basically. And finally, we have it here and it's working really good, actually. And myself, I was really impressed that it actually works. I did not have high expectations, but it works. It's basically a simple one-click installer that you simply run and does all the work for you.
Well, that's kind of good to hear. I actually used your instructions to kind of upgrade SquaredUp's systems SCOM landscape, and it was kind of a neat process. As a longtime SCOM admin, I was a little worried about this. So let's get into the specifics of it.
Yeah.
All right. So first impressions. I know I mentioned in the last slide, I thought it was pretty slick, but there were a couple caveats to it. Going through your post, what were your first impressions?
Well, I was first shocked. Okay, there's just an installer. Okay, so what does it actually do? Does it do everything? Does it just install a few things, few components? Does it actually apply the SQL scripts? Does it import the measurement packs? What does it actually do? So my first impression was like, okay, it's probably gonna do all of those, hopefully. Well, it didn't, but a lot. It did a lot still. So I was fairly impressed, really.
I was also, to mirror that, I was also impressed. I expected it to do everything, so I was a little disappointed with that it didn't. But for the most part, I was pretty impressed that I could just run that and go.
Yeah.
Cool. So for the too long didn't read kind of portion of the audience, it's pretty slick. Just run the executable, and you're pretty much patched except for a couple little things, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that being said, let's get into the step-by-step installation and see where it takes us.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing we got to do is download the installer. It's pretty self-explanatory. We put the link here. There will be another slide at the end that has all of the links in the presentation all together. So we'll highlight that when we get to there. But once you download it, I think if I remember correctly, this needs to be run on one of your management servers. So that's where you start the process from. So you can't do it from your desktop. Got to actually copy it to your management server and install from there.
Yeah, and for the record, it doesn't matter which management server you do it on first. It can be any.
Cool. Okay, so we don't have to deal with the root management server drama that we used to in the past.
No, I prefer doing it still. Just old habits, but
agreed. Really yep. And actually, for your step 2 is something old habits die hard. I also agree. Always run your install as administrator.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those things where if you do it this way, you're pretty much guaranteed not to have problems. But if you don't do it, it may or may not work, and you'll never know why.
Yeah.
Cool. And so that's fairly quick. And then step 3. As long as you understand the license and terms, we're good. Okay, so it goes that fast. It just starts installing at that point.
Yeah.
Huh. So I guess Microsoft really did something pretty awesome here.
Yeah, I mean, what is there more to say? I mean, also what's good is it actually shows you the steps it does. I mean, they might go quite quickly depending on, well, many things, but it does show, okay, we're doing registry entries, we're importing management packs, applying the SQL scripts, and so on. So it's actually nice that it shows, because normally you just see, you know, progress bar, and it's pretty boring, you know. But you actually see some progress here.
Cool.
And yeah, in case of any failures, you will also see that pretty clearly.
Okay, so I know for myself, I liked seeing where it was, trying to import everything coming through. So it was very interactive insofar as I could watch. And then when it finishes, it finishes. And this is what a good success looks like. This is what I saw, which was good. Once we get here, we close the install. And if you need to check anything, check our log. So that was pretty easy peasy, but things get interesting when things go south. So one of the things you mentioned in your blog was validating the installation. So this was something that is something a lot of SCOM administrators don't do. They don't check to make sure that the patches apply properly. So if you could, tell me about what you did here and where you're getting your information.
So obviously I have old habits, but not everyone has them. I always check the event logs, are there any errors? And then of course I open up the console. Sometimes I even clear the cache of the console, just in case, you know, want everything from a clean slate. So once you start a console, basically you start by going to the administration pane, and then you go under the operation manager products, which is quite new since the semi-annual channel SCOM versions. But yeah, here you will see a more detailed view now of the update rollup patches and the KB number and the version. But do note that SCOM runs a discovery once per day only to discover these values. So if you do not see these values straight away, or it might not show the correct version, even though your upgrade of SCOM Update Rollup has been successful, you might not immediately see this version change. So bear that in mind, that it might take a full day for it to actually update these.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, and speaking of this administration pane, that you're right. This came in the semi-annual channels. This was a really nice view. If you are not aware of it as a SCOM administrator, you should take some time to check it out, because it will help you find where your consoles are installed, where your databases are, what their versions are. It's a nice little view. It doesn't update quickly, but when it does update, it will tell you what's going on. So yeah, something to be aware of.
Yeah, and this is something that has been long awaited. I mean, it's a simple thing, really. Getting the version number of the SCOM, even when you apply an update rollup, this has been missing for a long time.
Yes.
That's why we've been having Kevin Holman's specific management pack that shows us correct versions.
And actually,
many of us.
That's true. Another good management pack to point out. The Kevin Holman's SCOM management pack is pretty excellent. It helps you see the version numbers that way too, and you can do that from the monitoring pane instead of the administration pane.
Exactly.
So cool. So if something goes wrong or you don't see the version that you're expecting, well, we need to go back to find out what's going on. So you were kind enough. I don't know how you did this, but you were able to get a screenshot of a failed install.
Yeah. So let me be fully honest here. This was my first try on the upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was actually good, because I learned a lot from this error, and well, you learn from failing. So if I remember correctly, I had like a management pack already existed with let's see, try to remember. I had a management pack that already existed, somehow collided with the one you tried to import, and then it failed. Either way, if the upgrade goes this far, it will not roll back, but you should definitely check the logs as mentioned here, and you should definitely check at which point did fail. Because what you need to do here, if it fails at the management packs step, basically to solve this, you need to manually import the management packs. There's no need to rerun the whole installer again. Yeah.
And I wanted to actually talk about this for a second. So your step failed at the management pack, and you said something key, which was, I'm actually going to go back a slide to kind of highlight that. Your management server update completed successfully. Your database server updated successfully. And you mentioned that there is no rollback. I always treated update rollups as a fail forward process. Once you start, you keep going until you get it working and you get it applied, because there is no going back.
Mm-hmm.
It was your experience with the new one-click installer. I mean, it's pretty much you go forward. There is no uninstall of this now.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's how I see it at least. Well, I mean, unless you're doing this properly during your maintenance window, you do maybe a backup of your SCOM service before, or you do a snapshot. That is also a very good idea.
That's true. I didn't even think to suggest that. So having a backup, making a backup of your databases, and taking your other management servers offline and doing it during a maintenance window is probably the right way to do this then. That way, if you need to restore, you can target specific things to restore instead of your whole landscape. So good point to make there. And then I like that yours actually failed at the management pack level, because I never really thought about that, but you're right. You can end up with management packs obtained from other places that update that then conflict. And so you have to kind of figure out what's going on with that. Taking a look at where your logs were, the local app data SCOM logs. That's interesting, because where you run it, what user you are, this location could be kind of different. So just keep that in mind.
Exactly.
Cool. Did you run into any other issues during the install? Was it pretty much good to go?
Yeah, it was pretty much good to go. I mean, when I had this issue, opened the log, there was one line in the log file. It showed me the exact name of the management pack, which was failing. So it was pretty clear. It doesn't get more clear than that. So I knew which management pack was causing an issue. What I did, I removed it, and I then imported the new ones basically manually and solved. But for testing purposes, since I did this in my lab, I tested again by reverting my snapshot. Then I removed the management pack that was failing, because I knew which one it was. And then I ran the installer again, and it went successfully.
Cool. Very cool. All right. So at that point, that pretty much wraps it up, except for the other, like the reporting piece, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The next slide is for the update rollup hotfix. So this was something that came out after the fact. We kind of wanted to talk about it, but this was an interesting thing. I have some opinions on this. I was really glad that Microsoft released this update rollup or this hotfix instead of waiting for the next update rollup.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, this I think it'll be a pain, because you're doing the update rollup and then you're going to the hotfix. But I think this shows Microsoft's commitment that SCOM isn't dead. It's still here. They wanted to get the fix out there, and it actually fixes a lot of alerting pieces. That's kind of awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they put this much time into releasing a hotfix this quick, you can clearly see that Microsoft care about the customers. They put a lot of value in SCOM, and it's definitely not dead, not even close.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. So we wanted to highlight that, and the link here takes you to the blog introducing it. The link at the end actually takes you to the download of the hotfix, so just be aware of that. Something else that you included in your write-up was a bunch of frequently asked questions. So I thought these were kind of interesting, and I wanted to call them out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So with the one-click patching experience. So, okay, I'm going to just read it here. Will the one-click patching experience patch the entire SCOM deployment, including the agents? So you answered no. and it does those components. So all the other components need to be patched in the existing manner. So what you remembered from past update rollups would still be true, I guess, is what you're saying here?
Yes.
Okay. So for like the reporting, there's still a executable to update reporting. There's still an executable for ACS. So there's still an executable for, or what was the other one?
So there is still all the executables left, even the server one, if you still want to continue doing it manually. If you're old-fashioned and you feel like, I don't want to do the one-click, fine, you can do it the old way. It's still supported.
Okay. I wasn't sure why they were still okay, that makes sense then. Good deal.
Yeah, they didn't want to remove the old method completely, so they just kept it there and just released a new one alongside.
So the other question was, what happens in the case of a failure at any step? And you mentioned that it'll stop at the first point. So what do you do at that point?
So yeah, the first thing you do is to check the logs and go through it in detail and check. It will say pretty clearly at what step or what it tried to do. I think personally the one-click installer, the logs are very good. It's really easy to read and understand them. It's not like a lot of garbage like most logs have.
Like true. But I guess the secret here with the one-click installer is, in the event of a failure, you do all of that work, figure out the problem, remediate it, and then just rerun the one-click installer?
You can do that, depending on which step it fails at. For example, if it fails on the management packs, you can simply just manually import them. That's one workaround. There is another thing. If you don't have .NET 3.5 on the management server, I think it will fail if I don't remember wrong.
Yes.
So yeah, so you can basically just install it, .NET 3.5, and you can rerun the one-click installer.
Yeah, I was pretty sure we still had the dependency on .NET 3.5. I wish they would get rid of that, but it's
they
there.
Are
yeah.
In the next update rollup, as far as I've heard.
Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. Cool. So for the next slide, we're going to see the logs if I'm using the MSP file and not the user interface. So this is if you're patching via command line. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the old way is all the MSP files, and it's important. I want to raise up something here. If you decide to install doing the old way, keep in mind that you need to run command prompts or PowerShell as administrator, or you will receive a nice access denied cryptic failure, which is pretty obvious because you don't have it elevated.
Excellent.
So that's one important thing when you run these MSPs.
Okay. And in circumstances where you're unable to find the SQL and/or MP import logs, refer to the setup log to root cause the issue. What did you mean by that? I mean, is there a case where the logs would move?
I'm trying to remember what I wrote here.
There was a lot going on. If I remember correctly, I think if I remember correctly when I read through your blog, this is a case where, depending on who you're logged in as and what server you're running on, it may go to a different place.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind when you're running this.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Let's see. Will the databases be updated every time the patch is run on each management server? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it will run once, and each time, the next time you run the one-click installer, it will actually check, has it run yet? And if it sees that it has run, then it won't do it, basically. So it's quite smart.
Okay, and will all management packs be imported as part of the integrated experience? And so the answer to that one, I was glad to learn because I didn't really know for sure, is no.
Yeah, only the existing ones. luckily.
Yeah. So if you have it, it'll update it. If you don't have it, it will not install it. So if you need it, like the alerts management pack, a lot of people don't know that it's there, but if you did put it in, it will get updated. If you didn't put it in, it will not get installed. So that is good to know. And for the last frequently asked question, will I be able to uninstall the management server patch?
Yeah, so if you complete it successfully, you can uninstall it. Like the good old way, you could still uninstall it, and it will only roll back, the binaries that was applied during the update rollup. It will not like completely uninstall all update rollups, just the one you applied.
Okay. I am actually writing a response to one of the questions in the forum. So, okay, and then the link recap. Here were all the links from the session. So make a note of that, leave that up for a second. And I wonder, you know what? We'll also post these to the Slack channel. That way people can get to these a lot easier, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And yeah, if you have any questions, throw them at Slack and we'll be happy to answer.
Okay. And then, your picture. There you go. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, a few things. So another change is with the new one-click installer is that you no longer need to have sysadmin rights to the SQL Server. This is a big change, I'd say, because before you really needed like every administrative privilege. So now it's enough that you have local admin on the server, the management server, and SCOM admin. Because the system admin is no longer required, because it will use the existing run as accounts you have to deploy the SQL scripts.
Okay, that's actually really, I guess maybe we should have made a bigger deal of that. The SQL part, in my experience, that was always the piece that all of the SCOM admins forgot. They would do the rollup, or yeah, they would apply the patch and then not run the SQL script for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't know, you could run the SQL piece of it multiple times just to make sure that you did get it. But again, a lot of people didn't do that. So that's a really key thing to call out there. Is there anything else we need for your slide? Well, otherwise we'll get to question and answer and then wrap it up.
No, I think I'm good. Let's go with questions.
Cool. All right, Q&A. Surprisingly, we don't have many, which is, actually I shouldn't say surprisingly. The topic is fairly straightforward in my opinion. So I think the questions that we have are the ones that we just weren't clear enough on. The first one was, if there are multiple management servers, do you have to download the patch to the other management servers while you do the first? You don't have to do it while you do the first, but you do have to upgrade the other management servers.
Yeah. And it's important that you do it one at a time. And once you've done it, let it soak in for a while, because it does the import management packs and everything, and it will take a little time. And so yeah, let it go like I don't know, like 10-15 minutes before you do it on the next one.
Okay, you were a lot faster than I did my first one, and then I did the first one, let it sit for an hour. And then I went to the second management server. I then again ran the one-click installer, let it finish, waited 10 minutes, went to the next one. And then I did those a lot faster. I'm always paranoid about the first one.
Yeah. Well, it's better to leave quite a lot of time, honestly. It depends also on the environment, of course, but because I did in my lab, so I don't have much.
True.
But yeah.
True. And this says, are we covering the other parts of Update Rollup 1 or just the one-click installer?
Well, we can go through other things. If there are questions, something you're wondering about.
There wasn't anything. Yeah, there wasn't anything specific in the question, but I'm wondering if they just wanted to know what else was involved. If you are at all familiar with the past update rollups, you had to download like 6 files, and then you went to the server that had those roles and ran those executables. That is still true for the gateway portion, the ACS portion, reporting, and you can do the management server that way after you do the one-click installer for your first management server. But I did not see the SQL packs or the SQL updates available independently. So nor did I see the management packs available independently. So I think you have
No,
to
they're not.
Yeah, so you have to run the one-click installer first, and then you can run the other pieces. So not much to cover for those other things since you kind of already have been doing that. But if there's a specific question related to that, let us know, and we'll see if we can get that answered. Will config service.config file be updated when update rollup 1 is installed? Okay, so there's nothing else part of this question, but if I'm understanding it correctly, config service.config. Oh, I'm thinking that's the console manifest for high DPI.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the config service I don't play with that very often. I'll check my notes and see if there was something there, but I'm pretty sure it maintains any changes that you made, but I'm not sure. The next question was are there any other major changes in update rollup 1? And truthfully, no. That was I guess maybe they mean changes to SCOM itself. We can go bring up the blog page, but off the top of my head, there wasn't a lot of significant breaking changes.
We can go briefly through them since we have some time. Well, first, the big thing was the simplified management server patching, of course. But another big thing is the distro agnostic management pack for Linux, which is also something we've been waiting for, because it's been annoying with so many different management packs for each Linux or Unix distribution. So now we finally have a distro agnostic management pack. One thing I wanted to point out here is that if you are still running older Red Hat or other Linux distributions, and you have those management packs imported, and you do update with the new distro agnostic management pack, you might encounter some issues, especially in the Linux computers view. There's been a few cases on the forums where people are still running unsupported Linux versions for some reason, but they still work in SCOM 2019. So, for example, you have a Red Hat 6 server monitored by SCOM 2019, which is unsupported by Works. So to monitor that, you need a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6 management pack. But if you import the new distro agnostic management pack, this will collide with the old one. So if you try to open Unix computers view, you will get an error saying that, something colliding or whatever it says. So this is one thing. Try not to run anything unsupported. and if you have old management packs, you can use the old ones, but I would prefer to use the new ones, because they will basically take over the old ones, and all the new ones, the universal management pack will in the future basically support all the upcoming Linux or Unix distributions.
Interesting. That is to me a breaking change. I did not have any Linux in my landscape to test that, so I'm glad you brought that up. That's a big one to me. In my old shop, we ran a significant amount of Linux, and because we were an enterprise, we tended to run a lot of the older version of Linux as long as we could, just because that's the way things worked. So they still had some Red Hat 5 and significant number of Red Hat 6. So interesting.
Yeah. It's I know it's a difficult process to get rid of older operating systems, and I mean, might be unsupported, but still works. So I mean, every company for themselves really, as long as it works. I mean, but do remember and try to be in a supported scenario if you can, and try to speed up the process of getting rid of the old operating systems, and so you can run the newest available management packs and so on.
Okay.
What else? We have support for Red Hat Linux 8.
Oh,
which is
I've not experienced that in a while yet, so cool. It's
this
like they're It's almost like Microsoft is going for all the new stuff and then killing us
Yeah.
on the old.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It's usually like supports like 1 to 2 versions, back.
Yes.
And that's the model they've been going with for a long time, also with Windows Server kind of. So yeah, I mean, SCOM supports obviously 2019 supports 2019, 2016, but they did also add support for 2012 because so many are using it still. So,
and actually,
normally it's like 2 different OS versions.
And speaking of server versions, there is a question about we have SCOM 2008 R2 agents in the environment. Can we update them? And I believe the answer is yes. But that's yeah, but that's pretty old.
Yeah.
Actually, when I say yes, I think you can, but you also have to do the PowerShell version, .NET, and a couple other things. But I don't know that you want to do all that work.
There is a lot of work, yeah. I don't think you can update from console. It will not be supported. Actually, yesterday I did a lab because we had someone asking on forums I needed to upgrade a SCOM 2012 R2 agent to 2019. And 2019 it will not be able to, from the console list, to upgrade. It will say it's unsupported. So it has to be 2016. So 28 R2 probably not going to work. You will probably have to uninstall it first and then install the new agent.
Or at the very least, probably find the old 2012 agent. Maybe get that way.
That could work.
Yeah.
Because 2012, the 2012 agent does work with SCOM 2019.
Cool. I like this comment. What is the actual gain of the one-click installer? There was some other comment about it, but they actually don't see any wins for the one-click installer. And to be honest, it's not. I think it's going to get better over time, but in my opinion, the one-click installer handles the first management server, the import of the right management packs, and the SQL piece. Those were the pieces all the SCOM admins missed. So the win here is that you're pretty much, for those administrators that, for those guys that have to deal with SCOM and are not SCOM admins, they get a more reliable upgrade. For those of us that know SCOM, it doesn't really get us, in my opinion, much of a win, but it is nice, and at least it shows that Microsoft is interested. Do you have anything more to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a fairly good question actually. It really depends. Honestly, yeah, there's a lot of improvement to be done. But we're getting there. I mean, now we have a one-click installer. That's at least a start. But now we can go forward from here and make it even better. So all feedback is very important. That
very true.
You do give feedback to the user voice of SCOM, and anything that could be done better with the one-click installer or anything with SCOM. So do give your feedback. But I believe, yeah, it's a good start. It can definitely be improved, and probably will. But yeah, slowly we're getting forward. And special maybe for those who run SCOM environment who might not have access to the SCOM databases, which previously required sysadmin rights. So yeah, that can take some time if you need to call out your SQL admin just to run those scripts. Now you don't need that anymore. Now you can just run the one-click installer without needing access basically to your SQLs.
I think it's more of a make it more reliable for non-SCOM admins. Is how to distill that. The next question was, do you run this one-click on the gateway servers? And the answer to that is yes. Actually, no. Do not run the one-click installer. You run the gateway patch.
Exactly.
We already kind of covered this one. What other changes does UR1 provide? So you actually did an excellent job of talking about all of that. There is a question farther down about any known issues. You kind of mentioned the Red Hat and the hotfix that was necessary. So when you apply UR1, you do get into a weird scenario with some of your alerts that the hotfix fixes.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. So that's probably the two known issues there. There's a question about group service or group managed service accounts, GMSAs. That I have no experience with yet. I have been reading up on those. I've not taken the time to really kind of look at that. So I don't know what the impact is for the update rollup. Do you have any experience with the GMSAs yet?
I have actually not tried it yet. It is on my to-do list, so so yeah, that's a good question actually. Definitely need to look that up.
Okay. One of the questions we had earlier that I was reading, they updated the question a little bit more. They wanted to know if they had to stop the DAS service on the other management servers. So speaking for myself, I actually turn off the other management servers while I do the first one, and then I turn them all back on and just kind of walk through them. And I do that just to kind of break any lock on anything. Do you do something similar, Leon?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that nothing's like ongoing. So just one at a time and keep the rest, out of the game, so to speak.
Yeah. But I think in the past, I think for me, in the old way, I would start to do an update. If I saw that it was stopped, I would then go stop the other management servers, and then things would kick off and go again. So yeah, you might have to stop it. So just keep that in mind. Does the one-click installer update the gateway servers? Nope. We've already answered that. Server 2008 agents. The 2019 agent will not install or can use the latest 2016 client as it will support it. So, okay, it's just validation. The 2016 agent will probably work on the 2008 agents.
Yeah, that should work.
Cool. Is there a reliable Microsoft manual for the GMSA installations? I think there is actually a couple blog posts for that.
There is a very good one from John Joyner.
And that was the one that was posted most recently, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has quite a step-by-step here how to implement it.
Yeah, I'll find that link and throw it in the Slack channel.
Yeah.
And is there any reboot sequence we need to follow? Also, can we delay restart of servers? Sometimes it's really difficult to get downtime. Yeah, totally agree. I've never patched SCOM and then not rebooted. As part of my work, I would start the patch right before my window and then reboot during my window. I don't know if it needs the reboots, but I think looking back at Kevin Holman's posts, if it doesn't ask for a reboot, you don't need a reboot. So yeah, I think that's the general trend. So do it in the patch window. If it doesn't need a reboot, you're good. I think that's probably the way to go for that. Yeah. And that's us. There are no more questions. So if you have any more questions, try sending them one more time, and then we'll give you another couple seconds, and then we'll wrap up for today. Okay, so our coffee break resources. This was the link slide that I had earlier. I will post all of the links from the link slide into the Slack channel. I will also post John Joyner's post about the GMSAs and maybe a webinar on that for the future. And let us know what you'd like us to cover for the future. And please sign up for any future sessions. Yep, still no questions, so I think we're good. Recordings and slides will be published up to our SquaredUp channel. And there is a YouTube playlist for the whole series. And feel free to reach out either through our help desk, to me directly, through the Slack channel. However, we'll get to you. And that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Leon. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, till next month. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.